Thank you, Time. Good evening, everybody. I want to thank Time, and I want to accept this award for 4 decades plus of work and trying to build out what we know are areas that need to be lifted up. I have a speech written there on the teleprompter, but I'm going to speak from the heart. I am a sociologist, and my sociology has taught me that it is not enough to gather the data, do the science, and write the books in order to get transformative change. In order for us to solve this climate crisis, we must do our science. We must gather our data. We must collect those facts and collate this information, but we must marry those facts with action. We must mobilize those who are most impacted by climate change, who have contributed least to the problem, but are feeling the pain and the hurt and suffering first, worst, and longest. Now, that is the environmental justice movement. When I started in 1979 in Houston, Texas, doing that study in support of the first lawsuit in the United States to challenge environmental racism. And I was drafted to do that work, and I give thanks to Linda McKeever Bullard, who twisted my arm, me kicking and screaming, saying, I got to do what? Doing a study in support of this lawsuit that was suing the state of Texas, and I worked for a state university, so technically she sued my employer. So what we have done in identifying what the problem is, looking at there is such thing as environmental racism, and you can challenge it in a legal sense. But all the facts that we discovered in this case, and we lost 83% of all the garbage, waste, pollution that was disposed from the 1930s up until 1979, 83% was put in black communities, even though blacks made up only 25% of the population. Now, we established the data, the facts, and the science, the methodology, but it was not enough to prove it in court. And what that taught me was we needed a sociology that was not just doing the data. We needed what was scientifically called kick-ass sociology. And what that meant is that we needed to have data, information, and that we needed to have communities that were most impacted involved in solutions, and saying that the environment is everything, where we live, work, play, go to school, and we need to make sure that no community is being sacrificed. And we also needed to have the recognition that those who are on the front line and fence line of environmental degradation, pollution, and climate impacts need to be in those rooms, at those tables, to formulate solutions. And I have learned over the last 45 years that people who have experienced these elevated disparities, they have PhDs in living. They understand the problems and the solutions better than anybody. And so in order for us to get real solutions, we have to put justice at the center. Justice at the center. So what we're fighting for is environmental, climate, energy, racial justice, gender justice, geographic justice. The zip code in the United States is one of the best predictors of health and well-being and your vulnerability. You tell me what your zip code is, I can tell you what's in it or what's not in it, how healthy you are, and how more you are vulnerable to climate impacts. I live in Houston, Texas, in the Gulf Coast, and we used to plan for disasters June through November. That's hurricane season. But Winter Storm Uri hit the Houston and the Gulf Coast in February. And last time I checked, that was in wintertime. So we have to plan for climate impacts. This crisis, not June through November, but January through December, January to January. We are in a climate crisis, and we are feeling it. And what we have to do is to bring the best minds, the best organizations, and the best solutions. I serve on the White House Environmental Justice Advisory Council. There are 26 of us. And we don't play. We are volunteers, and we tell people we're not from the government. We're from the people. We represent communities. And when we say we want real solutions, when the Inflation Reduction Act was being developed, we said we need resources that will go into the communities, and they need to go directly into communities so that we don't have money following money, money following power. We need money following need. We have the largest climate program in the whole country, the Inflation Reduction Act, $369 billion. Inside of that $369 billion, $60 billion for environmental justice, $60 billion for a clean energy transition. We have never had $60 billion of nothing to do any of this work. 1979, we had zero. Today we have. The challenge today is to make sure that we develop programs and priorities that will track the money to follow where the most important areas that need the first in line to deal with these problems. Whether it's dealing with these dangerous storms that come more frequent in terms of hurricanes, flooding, we need to address these issues first. Whether it's heat islands and heat waves and wildfires, the communities that are most impacted, they need to be in the front of the line to get these resources in order to build grassroots-based organizations that have suffered without funding. We must marry the science with the organization, with the funding to come up with these real solutions. I am optimistic, and I do have faith. But as my grandmother told me, faith without work is what? Dead. We have a live movement. I am a boomer, proud of it, still fighting, still standing. I am a Vietnam-era Marine Corps veteran. Hoorah! I don't have medals like Ambassador, but I have pride in the fact that we have to stand together and fight together. This is a war against this crisis that we can win. I know we can win. We have to bring this intergenerational mobilization, and we have to bring our science, we have to bring our community spirit, we have to bring joy. We have to celebrate our victories, but we can't celebrate too long because these, I won't call in names, but these fossil fuel industries are like zombies. You defeat them and they keep coming back. We have false solutions that are even inside of the IRA. We accept the good stuff that's in the Inflation Reduction Act, in the bipartisan infrastructure law, and all these other great bills, monies, trillions of dollars. But we have to push back against those false solutions, those shiny objects that we know are not for our communities. We talk about these community benefits agreements that's going for hydrogen hubs and carbon capture storage, and they're talking about putting the same pollution on top of the same communities that's bearing the disproportionate burden. I tell communities there's no benefit when you get given a poison pill and it's laced with sugar. It tastes sweet, but it'll still what? Kill you. We cannot allow this to happen. We must educate, we must activate, and we must continue to fight because justice is on our side. As Dr. King said, the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Our movement is bending this climate crisis, climate justice toward bending the crisis toward justice. Thank you very much. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.